When the smoke of civil war cleared and the final whispers of the Roman Republic faded into silence, one man stood above the rest, Gaius Octavius Thurinus, the adopted son of Julius Caesar. History would come to know him by another name, Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. Augustus, 27 BC, 14 AD, the architect of empire. In 27 BC, the Senate bestowed upon Octavian the revered title of Augustus, meaning the revered one. It was a masterstroke of political illusion. He maintained the forms of the republic while consolidating absolute power. He called himself princeps, the first citizen, and avoided the title king, so hated by Romans. Augustus rebuilt Rome, not just its marble walls, but its shattered soul. He instituted reforms in law, administration, finance, and religion. He expanded the empire's borders from Hispania to Judea, from the Rhine to the Nile. But Augustus also ruled with a cold precision. He exiled his own daughter Julia for her immoral behavior. He eliminated rivals quietly, through political maneuvering or covert assassinations. By the time of his death in 14 AD, Rome was no longer a republic in spirit or structure. It was an empire, and its people accepted the change with open arms. In his will, he famously wrote, "I found Rome a city of bricks. I leave it a city of marble." Tiberius, 14 to 37 AD, the reluctant emperor. Tiberius, the stepson of Augustus, was a skilled general but a hesitant ruler. He inherited an empire at peace but ruled with suspicion and detachment. He withdrew from public life, leaving much of the governance to the brutal Lucius Aelius Sejanus, head of the Praetorian Guard. Sabinus executed senators and nobles, consolidating power in the shadows, until Tiberius finally had him arrested and executed in 31 AD. Tiberius spent his final years in self-exile on the island of Capri, where rumors of orgies and cruelty flourished. When he died in 37 AD, few mourned him. Rome was ready for a new kind of ruler, and they would get one. Caligula, 37 to 41 AD, madness on the throne. Enter Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus, known to the people as Caligula, or Little Boots, a nickname from his childhood among soldiers. At first, the people rejoiced. He abolished unpopular taxes, freed prisoners, and held grand games. But within months, his sanity crumbled. Some said it was due to illness, others blamed absolute power. Caligula declared himself a god. He built temples to his own divinity. He appointed his horse Incitatus as a priest and allegedly planned to make him a consul. He mocked the Senate, executed critics without trial, and drained the treasury with lavish projects. In 41 AD, he was assassinated by his own Praetorian guards. Rome had seen enough insanity, but fate would deliver them a very different ruler. Claudius, 41 to 54 AD. The scholar emperor found cowering behind a curtain after Caligula's assassination. Claudius, uncle to Caligula, was declared emperor by the Praetorians. Many laughed at first. Claudius was seen as a stuttering, limping fool, but they underestimated him. Claudius proved to be a brilliant administrator and historian. He expanded the empire into Britain, a feat Julius Caesar had failed to accomplish. He improved infrastructure, reformed the legal system, and cracked down on corruption. But his personal life was tumultuous. He married Messalina, whose betrayals and plots led to her execution. Later, he wed Agrippina the Younger, who maneuvered to make her son Nero the heir. In 54 AD, Claudius died, likely poisoned by Agrippina. The throne passed to her son, who would become one of the most infamous emperors in Roman history. Nero, 54 to 68 AD, fire and fury. At just 16, Nero became emperor. The early years, guided by the philosopher Seneca and the general Burrus, showed promise. He reduced taxes, promoted arts, and entertained the masses. But as Nero matured, his darker nature emerged. He murdered his own mother, Agrippina, his wife Octavia, and later his mentor Seneca. He built the extravagant Domus Aurea, the Golden House, after the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD, which many suspected he had started. He persecuted Christians brutally, using them as scapegoats for the fire. He raced chariots, performed as a singer on stage, and demanded adoration from all. In 68 AD, rebellion swept the empire. The Senate declared him a public enemy. As soldiers closed in, Nero took his own life, reportedly exclaiming, "What an artist dies in me." With Nero's death, the Julio-Claudian dynasty ended in blood and flame. Rome stood at the edge of chaos once more. The empire, now nearly a century old, would face its first great test, a year with 4 emperors and a struggle for survival. The death of Nero left a power vacuum like no other. Rome, once a beacon of stability, plunged into the maelstrom of ambition, betrayal, and civil war. What followed was a year that nearly shattered the empire. The year of the 4 emperors. Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian. The year of the 4 emperors, 69 AD. When Nero died, the Senate quickly appointed Servius Sulpicius Galba as emperor. A stern, no-nonsense man, Galba ruled with cruelty and arrogance. He cut military bonuses and executed enemies without trial. Within months, he was despised. His own supporters abandoned him for Otho, a former ally of Nero, who had promised to reward the army. Otho assassinated Galba and seized power, only to face Vitellius, a Germanic general proclaimed emperor by his legions. The two clashed in bloody battle. Otho, defeated, took his own life to avoid more bloodshed. Vitellius entered Rome, feasting and squandering state funds. But from the east came another contender, Vespasian, a respected general and commander of the Roman legions in Judea. As Vespasian's forces approached Rome, Vitellius tried to flee but was captured and executed. Order was restored. For now, the Flavian dynasty had begun. Vespasian, 69 to 79 AD, the restorer of order. Titus Flavius Vespasianus was no aristocrat. He came from modest origins, a soldier and administrator who understood both war and governance. He restored discipline in the military, stabilized the economy, and rebuilt Rome's infrastructure. He began the construction of the Colosseum, Rome's most iconic structure, and cracked down on corruption in the Senate and provinces. He brought back honor and balance after years of chaos. Though sometimes stern, Vespasian was known for his dry humor. On his deathbed, he reportedly said, "Dear me, I think I'm becoming a god." Titus, 79 to 81 AD, the people's emperor, Vespasian's son Titus took the throne, and though his reign was short, it was marked by immense crisis and compassion. In 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius erupted, destroying Pompeii and Herculaneum. Titus led recovery efforts personally. The next year, a great fire swept Rome, followed by a plague. Yet he remained with the people, offering relief and comfort. He completed the Colosseum and held grand inaugural games. His generosity earned him the love of the Roman people. He died suddenly in 81 AD, likely of fever, and was mourned deeply. His last words, "I have made only one mistake." What that mistake was remains a mystery. Domitian, 81 to 96 AD, tyranny behind marble walls. Domitian, younger brother of Titus, succeeded him. At first, his rule was effective. He improved taxation, expanded the borders into Dacia and Britain, and beautified the capital. But over time, he grew paranoid and authoritarian. He declared himself a living god, demanded absolute obedience, and relied heavily on spies and secret trials. Senators, nobles, and even his own family feared him. In 96 AD, he was stabbed to death in a palace conspiracy involving his wife, chamberlain, and praetorian officers. The Flavian dynasty ended in blood, just like the Julio-Claudians. The 5 good emperors, 96 to 180 AD, a golden age. With Domitian gone, the Senate chose Nerva, an elderly and respected senator, as emperor. Thus began the age of the five good emperors, a time of relative peace, prosperity, and wise leadership. Nerva, 96 to 98 AD. Though old and without heirs, Nerva stabilized the state and gained support by adopting a popular general as his successor, Trajan. Trajan, 98 to 117 AD. Rome at its peak, Marcus Ulpius Trajanus was one of Rome's greatest emperors. Under him, the empire reached its greatest territorial extent, stretching from Scotland to the Persian Gulf. He conquered Dacia, modern Romania, built massive public works like Trajan's Market and Trajan's Column, and ruled with justice. He was humble and kind, a warrior who loved peace. When the Senate praised a new emperor, they would say, "May he be luckier than Augustus and better than Trajan." Hadrian, 117 to 138 AD. The wall in the Philosopher Hadrian, Trajan's cousin, shifted focus from expansion to consolidation. He visited nearly every province, reformed the army, and strengthened defenses, most famously by building Hadrian's Wall in northern Britain. He loved Greek culture, art, and philosophy. His personal life was marked by his deep love for Antinos, a Greek youth whose death haunted him. Hadrian ruled wisely, but was often melancholic and distant. He died in 138 AD, leaving a strong empire. Antoninus Pius, 138 to 161 AD. The gentle emperor Antoninus was perhaps the most peaceful emperor in Roman history. His reign saw no major wars. Instead, he focused on law, welfare, and moral values. He was loved for his fairness and piety. Under his rule, Rome enjoyed unmatched stability. He adopted Marcus Aurelius as his heir, setting the stage for a philosopher king. Marcus Aurelius, 161 to 180 AD. The philosopher king, Marcus Aurelius, was a stoic philosopher, more scholar than warrior. Yet he spent most of his reign at war, defending the empire from Germanic invasions. He wrote his famous Meditations while camped on the frontiers, reflections on duty, mortality, and virtue. He ruled with wisdom and restraint, but his reign also saw plague, war, and personal grief. When he died in 180 AD, the golden age of Rome ended with him. And in his final act, he broke the tradition of adopting wise successors, naming his biological son Commodus as heir.